I never thought my own daughter would leave me on the side of a deserted road like a piece of garbage. But that's exactly what happened on a cold November evening when the sun was already sinking below the horizon. The worst part, she had no idea what she just set in motion. If this story shocks you, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, because what happened next changed everything, and you won't believe how this ends. My name is Margaret, and I'm 73 years old. For the past 5 years, I'd been living with my daughter Claire and her husband Tom in their suburban home. After my husband passed away, Claire insisted I move in with them. She said she wanted to take care of me, that I shouldn't be alone. I believed her. I packed up my entire life, sold my little house where I'd raised her, and moved into their guest room. At first, everything seemed fine. Claire became distant, irritable. Every little thing I did seemed to annoy her. If I left a dish in the sink, she'd sigh dramatically. If I watched television in the living room, she'd make comments about needing her space. Tom barely looked at me anymore. I tried to stay out of their way, to be invisible, but nothing I did was ever enough. Then one evening, Claire came into my room with a strange expression on her face. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Tom and I have been discussing things, and we think it's time for you to move into a nursing home. We found a nice place about 2 hours away." My heart dropped into my stomach. "A nursing home? Claire, I'm not sick, I don't need." "It's not up for discussion," she interrupted, her voice cold. "We've already made the arrangement." I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. This was my daughter, the little girl I'd raised alone after her father walked out on us. I'd worked 2 jobs to put her through college. I'd sacrificed everything for her. And now she was throwing me away like I meant nothing. Saturday came too quickly. Claire barely spoke to me as I gathered my few belongings. She didn't help me pack. She didn't offer any comfort. She just stood in the doorway, arms crossed, waiting for me to finish. When I was ready, she grabbed my suitcase and headed for the car. Tom didn't even come out to say good. The drive started in complete silence. I stared out the window, watching the familiar streets of the neighborhood disappear behind us. Claire's jaw was clenched, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. I wanted to ask her why she hated me so much, what I'd done to deserve this, but I couldn't find the words. We drove for about 40 minutes, and then Claire suddenly turned onto a narrow road I didn't recognize. "This isn't the way to the nursing home," I said quietly. She didn't respond. The road became rougher, less maintained. Trees pressed in on both sides, their bare branches creating shadows across the cracked pavement. My pulse started to quicken. Something was very wrong. Finally, she pulled over onto the shoulder of the road. We were in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dense forest. The sun had nearly set, and the temperature was dropping fast. Claire put the car in park and turned to look at me, and what I saw in her eyes made my blood run cold. There was no warmth there, no love, just cold calculation. "Get out," she said flatly. "What?" "You heard me. Get out of the car." "Claire, please, I don't understand." "There is no nursing home, Mom. I can't afford it, and even if I could, I wouldn't waste the money. Tom and I are done taking care of you. We want our lives back. So get out." The words hit me like physical blows. "You're leaving me here, on the side of the road. Claire, it's getting dark, it's freezing." I said get out, she screamed, and I flinched at the fury in her voice. My hands were shaking as I opened the car door. The cold air rushed in immediately, biting through my thin coat. I stepped out onto the gravel, my legs barely able to support me. Claire popped the trunk, threw my suitcase onto the ground, and slammed it shut. She didn't look at me again. She just got back in the car, put it in drive, and sped away, leaving me standing there in a cloud of dust and exhaust fumes. I watched her taillights disappear around a bend, and then I was alone, completely alone on a deserted road as darkness fell around me. I started to cry then, great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. How had my life come to this? How had my own daughter become someone capable of such cruelty? But I couldn't afford to fall apart. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and I needed to figure out what to do. I pulled my coat tighter around me and picked up my suitcase. My phone was in my purse, but when I pulled it out, there was no signal. Of course there wasn't. Claire had planned this carefully. I started walking in the direction Claire had driven, hoping to find a house or a gas station or something. Anything. My feet ached, my suitcase felt like it weighed 100 pounds, and the darkness was growing thicker by the minute. I'd been walking for maybe 20 minutes when I heard the sound of a car engine behind me. Hope surged through me. Maybe Claire had come back. Maybe she'd realized what she'd done and felt remorse. But as the headlights grew closer, I realized it wasn't Claire's car. It was a pickup truck, old and beat up. It slowed down and stopped beside me. The window rolled down, and a man in his 60s leaned out. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked, his weathered face creased with concern. "My daughter, she left me here," I managed to say, my voice breaking. "I don't know where I am." "Good Lord," he muttered. "Come on, get in. You'll freeze to death out here." His name was Frank, and he was a local farmer heading home from town. He took me to his house, where his wife Linda immediately wrapped me in blankets and made me hot tea. They listened to my story with expressions of shock and anger. Linda's eyes filled with tears when I described how Claire had abandoned me. "That's monstrous," she whispered. "Your own daughter." Frank called the police. 2 officers arrived within 30 minutes, and I told them everything. They took down Claire's information, her address, and assured me they'd be paying her a visit. But there was something else they needed to tell me, something that made my heart stop. "Ma'am, you need to know something about that road," the older officer said gently. 3 weeks ago, a woman was attacked there late at night. She barely survived. The perpetrator was never caught. Your daughter left you in an extremely dangerous area at the most dangerous time. If Mr. Frank hadn't come along when he did. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The realization washed over me in waves. Claire hadn't just abandoned me. She'd left me somewhere she must have known was dangerous, at a time when I'd be completely vulnerable. Had she wanted something to happen to me? The thought was too horrible to fully process. Frank and Linda insisted I stay with them that night. The next morning, the police called to inform me that they'd arrested Claire. She'd been charged with elder abandonment and endangerment. During questioning, she'd broken down and confessed everything. She and Tom were in massive debt from gambling. They'd taken out a life insurance policy on me months ago without my knowledge, forging my signature. They'd planned for me to die on that road, making it look like an accident or an attack, so they could collect the insurance money. But Claire had made a fatal mistake. She'd never driven that road before and didn't realize there was a security camera at a hunting cabin about a quarter-mile from where she'd left me. The camera had captured everything, her dumping me on the side of the road, driving away. There was no way for her to claim it had been anything other than what it was, a deliberate attempt to get rid of me. I pressed charges. I testified in court, looking my daughter in the eyes as I told the judge and jury what she'd done. She cried, she apologized, she begged for forgiveness. But I remembered the coldness in her eyes when she told me to get out of the car, and I knew those tears were only for herself. Claire was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Tom got 6. Their house was seized to pay their debts. Everything they'd schemed and plotted for, everything they'd been willing to kill me for, was gone. As for me, Frank and Linda became my family. They invited me to live with them, and for the first time in years, I felt truly wanted. I helped Linda in her garden. I bake pies for the church fundraisers, and I finally have the peace I'd been searching for. Claire writes me letters from prison sometimes. I don't read them. I tried to read the first one, but all I saw were excuses and self-pity. The daughter I raised died the moment she left me on that road. And while part of me will always grieve for the relationship we could have had, I've learned that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. That cold November evening taught me that betrayal can come from the people you trust most. Frank and Linda didn't have to stop for a stranger on a dark road. They didn't have to open their home or their hearts, but they did, and that made all the difference.